is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Welcome to the Morgan Man Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Stacey Cole Morgan. Here on the Morgan Man Sports Podcast, we talk Atlanta Falcons news, pre-game predictions, and all other news surrounding the Atlanta Falcons.
Touchdown, Atlanta!
Also on the podcast, we talk Call of Duty League, esports, covering Roster Mania, major predictions, COD champs, player trades, and much more to get you ready for every single CDL weekend.
Scuff goes through, and Scuff snaps, wins the one-on-one in optic with the reverse sweep.
If that sounds good with you, put on your Falcons jersey, grab your gaming headset, and let's get this show started. What is going on, you guys? I'm your host, Stacey Cole Morgan, and you're listening to the Morgan Man Sports Podcast here on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Good Pod HQ, or wherever you find your preferred podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are talking about the Atlanta Falcons schedule release in order. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Last night, the NFL released all 32 NFL teams' schedules in order, and I got you covered for the Atlanta Falcons. Also on today's podcast, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the Major 3 tournament happening actually from yesterday, but happening all weekend right here. Who I think's going to win, who wins the MVP, and so much more. So that any further delay, let's go get straight into today's action. All right, guys, so this is going to be kind of, well, not like a two-part series, but I am recording kind of like on separate days right here. Of course, I am recording this Call of Duty segment right here on the 14th, and I'm recording the schedule release on the 16th. I know it's separate days right here, but trying to get the episode released to you guys here on the Friday episode like scheduled as always. So if anything does happen with the Call of Duty League right here, guys, I know the Thursday matches have already happened, so congratulations to whichever teams won their series against whoever, but we're still going to cover it for just today's sake as well and throughout the entire tournament. And now the Falcons part, that would be, after this segment right here when the schedule is released, because I am recording this a day prior to the release of the schedule. So just please keep all that in mind. So for the Major 3 tournament right here, guys, it is being hosted in Toronto, Canada, by the Toronto Ultra. And guys, let me tell you, the Toronto Ultra definitely needs to have some wins this weekend, especially with that home crowd that they're going to draw in. So as always, we're going to go over the Call of Duty League point standings before we get into all the juicy details of today's podcast, breaking down the tournament. So sitting at number 1, obviously, is Atlanta Falcons with 365 CDL points. Number 2 was Toronto Ultra with 315. Optic Texas at number 3 with 305. Number 4 is the New York Subliners at 210. Minnesota Rockers sitting at 5 with 120. LA Thieves sitting at 110, as well as the Vegas Legion and the Los Angeles Guerrillas. For the playoff qualification cutoff, if the regular season ended today and COD champs started tomorrow, sitting at number 9 is the Carolina Royal Ravens with 105. For 100 CDL points, you got the Miami Heretics at 10 and Seattle Surge at 11. And the Boston Breach still unfortunately sitting at 50 CDL points at number 12. So obviously, if I was a betting man, which sometimes I am, you're already looking at your COD champs picture right here. The only thing that might shake up, ladies and gentlemen, is the Carolina Royal Ravens sneaking in there over the Guerrillas or Vegas Legion. But the Ravens are going to have to step their game up after this major and start winning some all-in qualifiers, and hopefully that Vegas and Guerrillas start losing a lot of these qualifiers in the Major 4 tournament. But for right now, that is your current CDL point standings. And going into your Major 3 odds, plus your MVP presented by at Intel CDL on X or Twitter, whichever one you call it. FaZe is currently, the favorite to win this at 1.66. Ultra at a 3.75, Optic at 3.75. Then it drops dramatically to a Subliners at 11.0, Thieves at 26, Heretics at 81, Surge at 101, Ravens at 151, Legion 201, Rocker 251, Breach 501, and the Los Angeles Guerrillas sitting at 501.0. I don't understand how you can have the Heretics over the Carolina Royal Ravens and even the Surge, for that matter of fact. I mean, the Surge is playing way better than the Heretics, but the Ravens, they're playing them both better than both of them combined. So I just don't understand how you can have the Heretics, the fifth, sixth best team to win this Major 3 tournament over Carolina. It doesn't make sense. Now, for your tournament MVP, practically the entire FaZe squad is sitting at that top 5. Celium, of course, at number 1 with 3.75. Simp at 4.0. Scrappy, 4.5. Draza, 5.5. Abizi, 5.5. Pred, 6.5. Dashy, 7. Shotzi, 7.5. Kleenex, 8. Hydra, 9. So again, yeah, your entire FaZe roster is pretty much in that top 5 to win tournament MVP. So if FaZe makes it to the grand finals, which I think they will, they're too hot right now to be eliminated. Now, that's just not to sit here and say that they might get called on to a time or two in a few series, but their very first matchup is against the Miami Heretics, which I think that's obviously going to be 3-0, in my personal opinion. So I do like the odds right there for tournament MVP. And of course, I do like the odds for the outright win, except change the Heretics with the Ravens. Come on now. Even the damn Legion and Rocker and Gorillas are doing way better than the Miami Heretics. Now, if it was against the Breach, I could see, definitely the Boston Breach, because they're not doing nothing right now. But let's get into the schedule breakdown right here. So we obviously know the matches for winners round 1. So Atlanta FaZe versus the Miami Heretics. So Atlanta, I'm going to say it's a 3-0 right there. Los Angeles Thieves taking on the New York Subliners. I'm going to say Subliners in a 3-2. They walk away with a very, very close Map 5 round 11 win over the Los Angeles Thieves. But the Thieves, I do believe, can go on at least to a maybe elimination round 3, in my personal opinion. Toronto Ultra versus the Seattle Surge. Definitely, I think this is a 3-1. Optic versus Carolina Royal Ravens. I say this is a 3-2 for Optic. I do so because the Carolina Royal Ravens, from the Major 2 tournament, they were on absolute tear. They made it to the elimination round 3 or elimination round 4. I can't remember, but it was very far into the tournament. I believe it was like late Saturday evening when the Ravens finally did get eliminated. So they made some moves. In Optic, they've been kind of lackluster here lately. So this could be a swing in the favor for the Ravens. But again, Optic has got to show up. Dashy, Shotzi, all of them, they're going to have to start performing a lot better. And you invested a lot of money in Pred, but Pred has just not been that player that he was when he was in the Seattle Surge uniform. He's just not the same person in Optic. And he was just overhyped, in my opinion, going to Optic. So those are your winners round 1s right there, guys. And of course, for elimination round 1, you got the Vegas Legion, Boston Breach, Minnesota Rocker, and the Los Angeles Guerrillas. Me personally, out of the elimination round 1, I could see Legion moving on, maybe Guerrillas, but Rocker and Breach, they're going to be eliminated day 1 in elimination round 1. Now, overall, I do think FaZe is going to win this tournament. But for Toronto, where is Toronto going to place in my predictions right here? Now, the pick'ems are not available right now to update. They're still stuck on the online qualifiers for the Major 3 tournament from last week. But if I would guess right, Toronto Ultra, I believe they're going to make it to at least elimination finals. I think they're going to make it that far. They go up against Optic, in my personal opinion, and that would lead me to have an Optic versus FaZe in the grand finals. New York, I'm going to have them in the elimination round 4. They're better than the Rocker, better than Gorillas, better than Breach, better than Legion. But they're not better than the Ravens. They are better than the Surge, I know that. Now, Thieves, I think they're going to give them a time for their money, especially if Thieves and Subliners somehow make it back together in the elimination bracket. Then I think Thieves will might get the edge, learn from their past mistakes. But as far as I'm concerned right now, I think that the Subliners will make it to at least elimination round 4, going up against, let's just say, the Carolina Royal Ravens right there. Now, going over team stats right here, ladies and gentlemen. Atlanta FaZe, outside of a few statistics right here, Atlanta FaZe is pretty much number 1 in every single category. Overall KD, Atlanta FaZe is a 1.13 sitting at first. Hardpoint win percentage, Atlanta FaZe is second. I think that number can jump this weekend, but you got to have Toronto not really being in that killer instinct mode all weekend. You got to eliminate some of their pressure in hardpoint for Atlanta FaZe to start taking that first place spot. When the hardpoint KD, Atlanta FaZe is 1.11. For Search and Destroy, the New York Subliners are the very first team at a 69.4% in S&D win percentage, but FaZe is just 0.2% away from taking that first spot. But overall, S&D kill death ratio, round wins, round plus or minus, Atlanta FaZe sits number 1. Control, Atlanta FaZe sits number 1 in every statistical category in your control section. Now, the Boston Breach, looking at them, they're 5th in control plus win or minus at a 0.17 right here. And then for control KD, they're actually the 5th best control kill death ratio team in the Call of Duty League at a 0.99. And for control mount win percentage, they are at 54.2%. So anytime you go up against the Boston Breach, they do have at least a 54% chance of winning their map in control. And for player stats right here, obviously KD, Celium is sitting at number 1 with a 1.24. Simp number 3 at a 1.16. Scrap is 1.17 at second. Hydra is 1.13 at fourth. And surprisingly, Attach is sitting at number 5 with 1.11. For breaking point rating, Celium sits at number 1, Simp number 2. Basically, the entire roster for Atlanta FaZe outside of Scrap is in the breaking point rating. For hardpoint, Celium is definitely on fire with a 1.20. Hardpoint kills per 10 minutes. Obviously, it's going to be Simp. Now, Simp is sitting at number 5 with 4,374.99 damage per 10 minutes. For S&D, you got Celium and Simp. No KPR in S&D, there's no Atlanta FaZe right here, but Flames is sitting at number 1 with a 0.86. First Blood, Celium definitely has got it right here at number 3. For Control KD, obviously, it's the GOAT, Celium, at a 1.29. So overall, no matter how you look at it, ladies and gentlemen, the Atlanta FaZe is the most dominant team going into this weekend. And And for me to sit here and say that, I feel very confident in this team. Is there going to be a team that will put Atlanta FaZe to the test? Obviously, you got the Toronto Ultra, who I think is personally going to be giving them a test, but that's if they make it to winners finals. And I think they will. I think Ultra will get the win over Optic in winners round 2. And then, of course, Optic will then get their revenge on Ultra in the the elimination finals. But for right now, Thursday, I think Ultra advances along with Optic. And then for winners round 2, that Saturday, I think personally, Ultra does get that win. And then they get to go up against the Atlanta FaZe. And I think, again, that's where Atlanta FaZe will see its first test. But we know now how that matchup ends. We know how that matchup ends now, with Atlanta FaZe totally just blowing Toronto out of the water. If FaZe does beat Toronto in a 3-1 or 3-0 fashion this weekend, it is unanimous of who's going to win the Major 3 tournament. That there's no doubt about it. The only team that is like bottom tier team that I can think of that has really gave FaZe a run for their money is the Los Angeles Thieves. I think they came close twice now in a 3-2, and it was not easy for FaZe. But other than that, gosh, I mean, yeah, Toronto and Thieves, comparing from top tier to bottom tier, that's about the only competition for FaZe right now. Optic, they don't have FaZe's number. Subliners, they did there at first, but Subliners has completely fell off. Kismet and Hydra are the only ones keeping that team alive right now, in my personal opinion, and they must be taking freaking Advil like it's running out of style tomorrow because of their backs hurting from carrying this team so much. We'll have to wait and see, guys, but like I said, I am recording this right here for the winners round 1, basically the entire tournament, 2 days prior before the event started on yesterday, Thursday, right there. So I do apologize again ahead of time if I got any of these predictions wrong or whatever like that. So again, I am apologizing right now. So guys, we are moving on over to the Atlanta Falcons side of things right here. But before we do so, let's do some housekeeping, and that is make sure you are subscribing to the YouTube channel and following me on all the streaming platforms. Guys, it helps me out to provide you perfect content each and every single Friday, breaking down details for the Call of Duty League and for the Atlanta Falcons. And also, guys, to give back to you, you can take advantage of my stock and Fundrise options in the description below for you guys to check that out. For Fundrise, you can get a $25 voucher on me for signing up using my link, and that will help you build towards your very first real estate e-REIT investment. And also for Robinhood, you get your very first stock for free on me up to $5. 95% of it is going to be $5. The other 5% is very slim margin. So if you are lucky to get that, definitely let me know. But until then, yeah, you will be getting a $5 or less stock that is 95% guaranteed. And also, guys, this is not legal advice. So please do your own due diligence, do your own research before committing to this, because this is a risky investment just overall by putting your money into the market or e-REIT. So do your own research. And again, this is not financial advice. So now, guys, let's go ahead and get on over to the Atlanta Falcons side of things with the 2024 Atlanta Falcons schedule release in order. All right, guys, so we are back with the Atlanta Falcons 2024 schedule. And guys, let me tell you, this is a damn good schedule right here, and it should excite you for this season. Not only because it's a brand new regime under Raheem Morris, new quarterback, everything like that. But it should excite you because we got 4 primetime games this season. 2 Monday nights, 1 Thursday night, and finally a Sunday night football matchup. It is super exciting, guys. I'm ready to dive into this thing if you are. So as always, we kick things off with the NFL preseason, and we have 2 road games back to back to kick things off. August 9th, that Friday, against the Miami Dolphins at 7 p.m. August 17th, that Saturday at 12 p.m. against the Baltimore Ravens. And to finish out the preseason, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars coming to Atlanta that August 23rd at 7 p.m. that night. So, some very good opponents right there, especially the Baltimore Ravens. But the NFL preseason, guys, it's nothing to get really too hyped about. It's just basically who's going to make that 52-man roster, pretty much. So I'm not getting really invested in the preseason. And that's why with like Roger Goodell wanting like an 18-week season as well, and then having like 2 buys, and then instead of 3 preseason, it's going to be just a 2 preseason season right there. So, I mean, it's moving in the right direction, but for right now, we still just only got 3 preseason games. So those are your opponents for the preseason. Now, to get into the games that actually do matter, he's coming back to Atlanta for the very first game, and that is Arthur Smith and the Pittsburgh Steelers are coming to Atlanta for the Atlanta Falcons home opener, September 8th, 2024 at 1 p.m. Eastern. That's right, guys. We get first jabs at basically the newly revamped offense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And of course, our newly revamped offense as well. And defense, so much more. So we get first cracks at the Steelers. I'm going to say that's going to be a win right there, but who knows? We're not really getting into all that kind of situation as of right now. For week 2, you got the Monday Night Football primetime slot at 8:15 p.m. on September 16th. Then a week later, you got the Kansas City Chiefs coming to Atlanta on Sunday Night Football at Mercedes-Benz Stadium at 8:20 p.m. that night. Week 4, you got the New Orleans Saints taking on the Atlanta Falcons in Mercedes-Benz, September 29th. October 3rd, you got the Buccaneers visiting the Atlanta Falcons on Thursday Night Football. Then after that, you got the Panthers hosting the Atlanta Falcons October 13th on a midday or mid-afternoon card, at 4:25 p.m. Seahawks are coming to Atlanta October 20th at 1 p.m. Then the Falcons will visit the Buccaneers on October 27th at 1 p.m. Cowboys come to Atlanta November 3rd. Falcons go to New Orleans on November 10th. Then the Falcons will have to travel to Denver to take on the Broncos November 17th. Chargers come to Atlanta on December 1st. Falcons go up to Minnesota on December 8th to take on the Vikings. And then we take on the Raiders the following week on Monday Night Football at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on December 16th. Giants versus Falcons on December 22nd. Falcons at Commanders on December 29th. That's our old head coach, Dan Quinn, that we'll be going up against. And then finally, to end the season on January 5th, 2025, you got the Panthers coming to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Now, both the Commanders and Panthers game is to be discussed towards the end of the season. Hopefully that will be flexed. I hope for a primetime slot, but who knows? So that's your season right there, guys. And from what I can look at it, from just this standpoint right here, I don't see a single loss. Really, I don't. If anything, and I don't want to sit here and say I want the Falcons to lose, because I don't. I want them to win every single game, every single year. But if I'm going to be realistic right here, guys, and if this coaching staff is very serious about the win now mentality, do better each and every single week, better than what you've done the previous week, I could see this Atlanta Falcons squad having 2 losses under their belt all year. Max. I could seriously imagine it right now. And in those 2 losses, unfortunately, it would be in the primetime slots. One against the Eagles on Monday Night Football, and then one against the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. Yes, I know that's an embarrassment for the organization right there, but I feel like that's going to be our only 2 losses. I could be wrong. I really could be. But the way this is going, I could seriously see the Falcons going 15-2 this season. Just based off of what I'm looking at right now on the schedule. It could be 16-1. I mean, it could very well be, and our only loss would be on Sunday night against the Chiefs. So you're really having to look into a lot of factors into this right here. You know, how's the coaching going to be, you know, blah, blah, blah. We're really not going to know what any of our teams, what just the Falcons or the 31 other NFL teams, no one's going to know what they're going to look like until maybe week 6, week 7, right there. About the halfway point of the NFL season is when you're really going to know what your team is going to be capable of. And for the Falcons, worst case scenario, we always know what the team's going to look like by late October. Because then we still got 2 more months of football left. And by late October, you already know what the Falcons are going to look like. Either they're going to be rising up or they're not. It's one of the two. But looking at the schedule, I could confidently sit here and say that I could see max 2 losses for the Atlanta Falcons all year. We have the easiest schedule in the entire National Football League. So we should be able to win out on all of these games. Our toughest opponents are the Eagles, Chiefs, maybe Seahawks, and Cowboys. Those are our 4 toughest opponents all year. 4 toughest. So I really do like our odds right here, but we're going to see what the NFL studios and all of them have to say about the schedule come maybe late July, somewhere right in there, when they start amping up the season more and more, because the preseason would just be around the corner for the NFL. So guys, let me know, what do you think of this schedule? Do you really like it? Do you hate it? Is there anything that the NFL could have done differently for the Atlanta Falcons? Because I do know between weeks 10 and 14, the Falcons are on the road 3 out of 4 games. They really are. And that would be a toll on this team. So when it comes to week 10 through 14, that's going to be a difference maker of whether or not this team is capable of winning games, knowing that they're tired of being on the road all the time, just other different factors into that. So like I said, I say max 2 losses this season, and that's me being realistic, because usually I'm saying this is a Super Bowl season regardless of what the schedule looks like. But to be a more serious matter, like I said, 2 losses. Let's just bump it up to 3 just to be on the safe side. And that's not a bad season right there for the Atlanta Falcons. Going to the playoffs, and then what happens there is beyond me. But for right now, we're looking at the regular season, and it looks promising, but we just have to wait and see what this coaching staff is going to do. But guys, I sure hope you did enjoy it. If you did, make sure to like button wherever you are listening from, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you find your preferred podcast. But until then, I, Cole Morgan, will catch you all later. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.